name is Gabby. I will be your host and moderator today. I'm excited to dive into this very interesting conversation. Joining us, we have Neetu Shaw, a recognized leader in AI and digital transformation, specializing in enterprise data and AI-driven solutions. She has been instrumental in shaping AI strategies across industries and was honored as IT Wondrous Woman for her contributions to tech and leadership. She will have a chance to introduce herself in a bit, but I just wanted to welcome you once again. If you have any questions to Neetu, you can leave them on the chat, or you can also raise your hand. We will be taking your questions. And before we start, is it Neetu?
Me too. Yes, you nailed it.
Perfect. All
Just
right,
like me
Neetu.
too, but with an N and two
Okay.
N's.
Yeah. Neetu, over to you. Welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, please.
Okay, lovely. Well, thank you so much, Gabby, and the extended Cogent team. I am super jazzed about this conversation. So thanks for doing that. And apologies for the technical issues. They were uh, kind of unnerving a little bit, but I'm glad we're able to do this. So, by way of introduction, I'm Neetu Shaw. I've been hailed as an overachieving rainmaker, a trusted advisor, a formidable AI and all things data leader, an eloquent entrepreneur. You can have all those names, and that's part of the IT Wondrous Woman award that I got. They kind of narrowed it down to those. But essentially, think of me as someone who has spent the last couple of decades helping consulting and technology corporations, whether they're publicly traded, privately held, or then PE-backed, to claim or reclaim their profitability crown in the data and AI space. So I have built thriving global divisions around data and AI. I have built sales, marketing, and delivery capability around specific stacks or end-to-end stacks, whether for data analytics and AI, or specific stacks around just generative AI and AI. So a lot of exposure to technology, especially on the AI front. And I have built and led industry verticals. I've built sales, marketing, delivery capability, managed P&Ls, and have been an overachieving individual contributor throughout. So as you can tell, Gabby, I have a highly diverse background, which is both extensive and relevant to this conversation. So I'm super jazzed about it, and thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much, Neetu. Thank you so much. So this topic covers different things, especially similar to what you have done so far, different areas. So talking about enterprise AI in 2025, right now, AI, I think it's both exciting and also a bit overwhelming for business leaders, because on one hand, you can bring innovation, automation, efficiency, but in the other hand, it brings also concerns about security, ethics, and job displacements even, right? So from your experience, what do you think is keeping executive awake at night when it comes to AI?
Over the last, I would say 4.5, 5 years, top executives have been most concerned and interested in generative AI's potential to add more fluent, cohesive, and coherent contextual awareness and human-like decision-making to enterprise workflows. So be it in HR, sales and marketing, finance, or then supply chain. They're all about understanding the human decision-making factor. And so that's why all of the innovation that you see in the AI, and especially in the generative AI world, has been focused around how do we make that happen? How do we, make that journey from planning to perception to reasoning to actually acting it out? And that's where the whole AI agentic, reasoning era comes in. But if you really think about it, the question is not about just the technology and the advancement in the software industry, in the chips industry. I mean, you think about the whole industry is booming. However, executives still want to be able to take a step back and cover the holistic view of how do you make it real for an organization, for a business, for an enterprise. And that's why I think it's so important to really understand what's top of mind for them. What's top of mind is we've been going through digital transformation for over a decade, right? All these businesses have been on a journey and they have achieved a certain level of maturity as part of that journey. So, how do you take these advancements, sprinkle them across the enterprise, across different business functions, really get to augmenting humans and automating machines so you can have autonomously executing business and IT processes? That's the holy grail, right? So if you really talk to an executive across different industries, it's really about how do you regenerate for the future with an end-to-end AI powered business regenerative transformation so that you're able to build sustainable regenerative business models that can actually be self-healing, self-adapting, right? So you have minimal human innovation and intervention as far as the business and IT process execution goes. So it's all about autonomously executing those and basically weaning away from your reliance on humans. And so if you really think about that, what they're really asking for is not just making those digital transformations real from a business imperative standpoint, but also to really bring the focus on what's important for this, and that's human in the loop. So when you talk about fears or where the human beings are going to be as far as this revolution goes, top executives are really thinking about how do I harmonize corporate responsibilities in the AI innovation world and really bring about that AI innovation in a very responsible, ethical, explainable, and trustworthy fashion. So that takes you back to privacy, security, right? And those are the elements that are top of mind. So it's not just technology, it's not just software, it's not just GPUs and CPUs. It is about how do we make it real at the most fundamental levels while taking it to the next level of what I call is the holy grail, which is everything autonomously executing with a culture of regenerating transformations, people being part of it. And really, that's where what is keeping those executives awake at night. And so our job as consultants really becomes twofold. One is to help them understand, based on the innovation and the technological advancements that are going in this space, what does it really mean for them as part of their journey? So you meet them where they're at, not, oh, these are the 10 tools I can bring to the table from an architecture and a governance standpoint, and let's go. No, it's really about understanding where they've taken their transformation thus far. Where do they really need to go? So it's a very strategic conversation with a lot of business outcomes tied to it. And I think that's where a lot of the consulting firms, professional services firms need to be focused on. So if you go and talk to the executives at Ford, for example, they're going to be one looking at you to understand, what does this all mean for me? Break it out, simplify. If you cannot explain it in simple words, you're going to be lost, right? So that effective C-suite storytelling becomes a part of your conversation. So help them understand where this is going, how to get started. So I call them primers for business executives and stakeholders, right? Create those primers, those blueprints, those playbooks that help them understand, how do I take my journey and make it end to end powered by AI, right? While bringing my teams, my people along, right? So, how do I cross skill, upskill, reskill my people to really fit into this paradigm, right? So, it's not something that they want to focus on without the humans in the loop. And that's why I think the human machine equation is even more important for us as we talk to these strategic constraints. Now the other aspect is, as a consulting firm, you have to really be thinking about, what are those IP based disruptive solutions that I can bring to the table based on the LLM stacks, the SLM stacks, the innovation that already exists, right? So is the market stabilizing? How do we take what is actually been proven out, and really take that and make it repeatable and scalable and elastic for these farms to be able to take that. So I think the pressure on people like you and me, Gabby, is huge right now, because it's not just the ability to help them understand this revolution, but also become a part of it. And while you're doing it, you're really helping them understand how to take those few players that have actually become scaled AI players in architecture and governance and technology, in chip innovation, bring it all together and take what they've built and be able to take it to the next level. So I think those are the things that are top of mind for executives. And those are things that, as they are discussing who to bring in and who to help with that work, they're really assessing us on, where's our innovation? What are the strategy that we bring to the table? How are we going to bring speed and scale, not just to the technology piece of it, but also to really be able to make those business decisions? So I hope I answered that. I went into a lot of detail, but I wanted to make sure that, simplifying, I guess, is the way to go.
No, definitely. And based on everything you just said, I'm interested in the process. Like I'm picturing you with the executive. So
Yeah.
once you have explained all these things, until some point, obviously, in your experience, what are the major blockers that they think of, or like bottlenecks or concerns, or what are they like scared the most when they hear you and they say like, okay, is Neetu here? Okay, sorry.
No, sorry, my phone was going on
No
and
worries.
on, so I had to just like turn it off. Sorry, go
No
ahead.
worries. So yeah, my question is like, what are the blockers that you find the most from them after they hear you? And also I want to know if you advise them on the speech that then later on they would need to say to their employees, because I think it must be for some people difficult to hear like, okay, we're implementing this and that and AI solutions, AI automations. How do they talk then to their employees about that? Do you participate on that as well?
Oh, yeah, a lot of those. So, it's been very interesting. I would say the last 2.5, 3 years specifically have been all about conversations. It has been all about figuring out, where the market is, where they are in that journey, and where they want to go. So, a lot of that uncovers a lot of different aspects. And like I said, the culture and the people component is top of mind. In AI, culture absolutely matters. And uh, when you say culture absolutely matters, executives are always thinking about, what are those focused and steady investments that I need to make in terms of reskilling, cross-skilling, or upskilling my people, right? But also in hiring the right personas for this next part of our journey. So as you're thinking about future skilling your people, they're always thinking about agile innovation as well. It's all about agility. I talked about speed and scale. So it's not just about bringing that talent development that is so important in this part of our AI revolution, but also, how do you promote and sustain that culture of agile innovation, of people constantly learning, of that excitement that you are going to be a disruptive force, right? So I think it's rediscovering yourself and the organization and your people all over again. So this is fundamental and this is critical. So I go back to the same question around harmonizing corporate responsibility with AI innovation. That's why AI governance, people, culture, all of that is top of mind. I've not had a single conversation across different industries, and top of mind, I would say manufacturing, automotive, consumer goods, and life. I would say pharma, right? Life sciences. So that's one. The other aspect is the fear of having to rip and replace. And one of the things that I always emphasize is, you don't have to rip and replace. It's an addition or an expansion. So think about, you've already landed a modern data platform, right? Irrespective of the technology you're in, all you're thinking about is refreshing your data and analytics strategy in the light of being AI first, right? So when you talk to them about that, then the fear of, oh my gosh, I have to do everything all over again for my architecture, my technology, my governance pieces, my infrastructure. Now, infrastructure is a totally different animal, because you absolutely need to talk about optimized GPU environments, right? The NVIDIA, the AWS, the Google environments. And that's where a big constraint is, top of mind is, do we even have the optimized, GPUs, right? And I think that's one issue from a strategic, environmental, infrastructure standpoint that keeps them awake. Specifically, I would also say, from a foundational model, LLMs, SLM standpoint, I think executives at this point of time are pretty comfortable with what the market has settled on. There are, I would say, a handful of scaled players in this market that conversations naturally steer towards. So, as far as you're thinking about foundational models, I think that's not top of mind as much anymore. Infrastructure always is. I would say a lot of focus on the front end application, the Gen AI application development, right? Conversational AI platforms that are relying on more domain specific SLMs and LLMs to provide those advanced NLP capabilities to chatbots and virtual assistants. They want that irrespective of the business function. So sales and marketing were the big ones. We saw HR back in the day, but now it's like transcending into all areas: manufacturing, supply chain. So if I'm speaking with executives in a manufacturing and an automotive industry client, really top of mind for them is supply chain optimization, manufacturing process optimization. And those conversations I tend to lead with what I call are the 5 E's of AI value creation. So you have efficiency, effectiveness, engagement, experience, and ESG. Those are the 5 parameters that you want to think about in terms of AI value creation for our clients. And so, for example, in the consumer goods industry, think about the value chain. It's all about driving operational efficiencies. It's all about higher, productivity, significantly improving experience, streamlining engagement, and that is all while delivering on the ESG promise across the value chain. So if you look at the tip, the activities and tasks that are at the tip of the value chain for a consumer goods industry, generative AI is great for product conceptualization, product planning, targeted marketing, right? Those are the use cases that require lower levels of determinism, right? You don't need as much business outcome certainty as part of them. So those are great. You're creating dynamic content. We saw that boom 3 years ago with sales, marketing, HR, like, basically automating all of those tasks. And we were already doing a lot of RPA and AI workflow work as part of RPA. So chatbots and steroids is not anything that they're worried about right now. It's about how do we get into AI agents, right? How do we get into agentic reasoning era? How do we really take the RAG process that we've formalized from an architecture standpoint and really bring that and integrate them with the agents? So again, think about complex AI systems getting formed with AI agents within your network or your extended ecosystem, web, social, all of that kind of coming together and being orchestrated by agents and humanoids across the board. That is the holy grail of business. And that's where these conversations tend to go. Now you can get very granular and tactical, where you're looking at each and every layer of an AI model architecture, right? So you're looking at the physical layer, the data layer, the layer that focuses on knowledge, like search, and then you're really going after the infrastructure, the data processing pieces. But I think those are more granular areas. the bigger conversation from a strategic standpoint are the different aspects I covered. Now, the other thing top of mind also is we've already spent a lot of money on digital transformation. So how do we make them, these transformations, self-healing, self-adaptive, sustainable, more intelligent, right? Because we baked in a lot of intelligence already into our systems. So the next really has to be that wow thing, where whether you have conversational AI platforms, chatbots, virtual assistants, or then AI agents, really taking our assistive experiences and, extrapolating out to, well-connected, complex systems coming together. So that's where most of these conversations go. And then, of course, use cases. Everybody's interested, but I always guide them to not just think about use cases in terms of AI and generative AI, because at the end of the day, you're not really experimenting alone, right? It's about what can be productionalized and where can we take this. So the whole use case concept of trying out what fits for sales and marketing, finance, HR, supply chain is so old school to me. And that's why I think it's important to take a holistic view, but also then make it very relevant in terms of how do you stitch those use cases together across the enterprise to make it something more real and tangible. So those are, I would say, some of the conversations that are top of mind. And if they really want to go technical, it's agent and LLM integration and really going into the technology pieces. And like I said, there are only a handful of scaled players that most strategically placed companies in the AI realm want to go forward with. So it's a very intentional and deliberate choice of technology players that they're making in order to create their AI ecosystem, if you will. So back to you. Did that help?
No, yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. So you have talked a lot already about different maybe trends that are happening right now, but I do want to, because every year we see that AI trends are all over the internet right now. Some maybe sound very revolutionary, but never take off, or others completely reshape industries, right?
Yes.
So from your perspective, and I know you have mentioned already a couple, but what's an AI trend that's truly making an impact in business today?
Well, I would say agentic AI and the ability to integrate LLMs with AI agents and really moving the needle forward on in terms of not just augmenting humans, but automating those machines to autonomously execute. I mean, I can, if you take anything out of this talk, just think autonomous execution. That's top of mind. And autonomous means minimal to no reliance in humans, right? So if you think about every business function, big or small, that can rely less and less on humans, that's really where they want to go. But I think in the last 2 years, a lot of what I've seen is the focus on efficiency, effectiveness, engagement, experience, and ESG. And those are some of the biggest programs around supply chain optimization, manufacturing process optimization, service optimization, hyper personalization, targeting marketing at scale, targeted marketing at scale. Really going after, core text search, enhanced search, similarity search, common areas where cognitive search becomes, prime. And then I would say those are the big ones. Now, I've also noticed if you look at pharma and financial services and the investment management industries, a lot of focus on really taking those chatbots and QA engines that we had created back in the day and put them on steroids by connecting them to domain specific and industry specific SLMs. So Intuit Assist for TurboTax. Now that the tax season is upon us, that's a classic example of, bringing generative AI to life by giving power to, basically consumers and small businesses to be able to go in and do their taxes, but also getting information in real time in terms of the refund. Are you doing anything right or wrong? And what are the loopholes in terms of getting those refunds right? And any other specific nuances, but that's catered to your personal history with TurboTax. And the beauty of that is it helps you expedite that process. So we're seeing a lot of that kind of, synthetic data engine, coming to life around, obviously Pfizer, Moderna back in COVID started to do that in order to go forward with drug discovery, right? New enhancements to drugs and figuring out, COVID in all its shape and form. That all started with, AI and synthetic data engines being formed. So I would say a lot of that focus is there. But then, again, depending on the size of the company, it can really be something more focused on AI workflows and AI automation than true generative AI or true AI too, right? So that distinction is important as well, because they could easily use RPAs for predefined tasks, right? If you're not really looking for perception, reasoning, and action, then you can just go with traditional AI, which is what we've been doing. But if you want perceptional reasoning, planning, action, just like humans, right? Human like decision making and contextual awareness, AI needs to evolve into being more of a thinking, body. So just like humans, when I say something to you, you pause, you think, you reason out, and then you give a response. So AI, up until last year, I would say up until July of last year, was all about LLMs, SLMs, predefined tasks, more predicting than being able to reason out, perceive, and act, right? So that those activities and that progress is what is bringing all of this together. And so depending on where you're in your journey, you might start small, or you might start big, or you might have a hybrid approach. Did that help?
Right. Definitely. So some AI implementations, and I'm sure that this is what businesses want,
Yeah.
but some of them go beyond expectations and deliver like great results, game-changing results. Can
Yeah.
you share like an AI use case that really stood out for you in like during your years working on this?
Gosh, there's just so many, like the synthetic data engine ones for media industry, for financial services industry, for life sciences, pharma. I would say there are just so many similar use cases, and it's booming right now. Everybody wants something that can actually give them more tangible in this realm. So I talked about the Intuit Assist. Similarly, Pfizer and Moderna and had their engines. The thing that really excited me was a media company that wanted to revolutionize its legal department. And 2 years ago, they brought me in to talk about their head of legal, wanted to talk about how they can use AI to really free up their attorneys to be able to do what they do best, which is you have data at your fingertips. You are just going and doing your magic outside and solving the cases, right? So, how do we give more power to the attorneys and our legal assistants internally and really allow them to do what they want to be able to do? And that was the most exciting project that I did recently, because it was not just about one legal. You think a lot about it. There was a lot of learning on my own part, really understanding the complexity of the content, the level of insight extraction that was needed, the classification of the data, the discovery of it, and really being able to bring all of that together to create a legal engine which would not only give them all the details of prior cases depending on a keyword or similarity search. So if you wanted to see all the cases with I don't know, serial killers that have operated in a certain territory in the United States, and the actions and the that were taken, that would provide them quick access to that. So as they're looking at other cases, similar cases, they have information that feeds into that, right? So I would say those kinds of programs, and that was an 8-month program, but obviously the content for a media company is going to be different. The legal content is going to be different. But they also do a lot of professional services like you and I do. So RFP content, RFI content. Imagine Gabby has to write an RFP response and she goes in and she finds everything documented and available at her fingertips to be able to go in and see any of the similar RFPs or RFIs that have been done in the past, to retrieve that data, to document it, to generate it, put in the document, being able to create your own PowerPoint, and being able to do all of that in a matter of a few minutes, right? And that's the flexibility of providing, skilled professionals with more time in their hands to be able to do what they do best, which is the magic in person for their respective professions, right? And so I would say that definitely stood out for me. But a lot of the supply chain work I did, that is most exciting. So the ability to think about reducing energy consumption, optimizing energy consumption, minimizing stockouts, and complex issues around the supply chain, and then of course the manufacturing process kind of tied together. That's something that I genuinely like to go after, because I think when you think about end-to-end AI powered transformations, top of mind is going to be factory models on steroids. We already do assembly production, right? When you think about automotive industry or aerospace, but how do you actually put that on steroids, right? And with minimum bugs, minimum issues, no technical issues. I think that's really what most executives are interested in. So I would say definitely those are some of the more tangible ones. But of course, in the financial services industry, consumer goods industry, there's revenue growth, top of mind, profitability. So think about all the intelligent ways that you can actually do all of that, pricing, growth, engine analysis with generative AI. So optimizing those pricing promotions, placement promotions, right? All of the standard sales and marketing things that we've done. But yeah, those are, I would say, the best use cases that I've seen. And now I don't want to scare anybody because we're all, software engineers and developers at heart, but that started 4 years ago where, and now you can see you have coding agents, you have, software agents, right? That's all real, and so modernizing our coding, our development, and freeing up those brilliant brains that have been spending all this time in coding applications is one of the biggest use cases that has been worked on. Right. So freeing up IT resources, right? And then call centers. So that revolution has been going on for 4 or 5 years. And I don't know how you guys are feeling the pain or the pinch or the excitement of it, but I think that's all very real.
Definitely, yeah. This is just more out of curiosity. Yeah. But do you have any industry that you like the most, or does each one of them brings out a different side of you? In terms of your participation?
Yeah, great question. Having been in the industry for 20 plus years now, I have worked and seen everything, including aerospace, right? So that gives me an edge over people that really just focus on one or two industries throughout their career, right? And I really think that the analytics and the AI market was always about synergies. It was always about learnings from different industries and applying them to the industry at work. So I think that certainly gives me a competitive edge over people that have just worked either in retail or life sciences, because I can take something that I learned within manufacturing and automotive and be able to apply it for retail and consumer goods, right? And vice versa, and across the board. So I definitely, I'm glad that I steered my career towards really expanding that horizon and going after all possible domains and industries. I would say the longest I have been manufacturing and automotive, being in Michigan, automotive in my backyard. I mean, I do that in my sleep. I know executives from most of the auto companies here, but also, Honda, Toyota, Kia, some of the ones that are not in the area. So I would say, that whole supply chain manufacturing, automotive is great. But then I can't leave the consumer goods side, right? Retail, because that impacts you and me as retailers
Right.
and consumers. So I would say those are close to heart. But it also comes down to the excitement of seeing how these companies are going to rebrand themselves, because essentially it's a rebranding exercise. What are you today and what are you going to become tomorrow, right? And that's an imperative that most stakeholders are trying to solve for. And I think the interesting part of that is going to be everything that comes in between, which is what is your brand personality? How do the consumers look at you, right? And how do you actually give them those seamless, cohesive, fluent, coherent experiences that will make them come back to you all the time, right? So it's rebranding and the associated change to the business model that really, really excites me, irrespective of the industry, because I think that's really making the business regenerative transformation piece come to life for these companies and these executives. And I think I essentially could just keep doing these strategy programs where it's all about bringing it together and then making it real with technology. That's what I love most.
Yeah, and it's great to listen to all of this, because we have been listening to you for 40 minutes now, and we can see like all your experience in different areas. But I wanted to ask this question again because I think that it makes us, everyone here, identify with you more, because you have been in so many different areas that some people might say, oh, amazing that she has been in supply chain or automotive, but also retail. And also it's amazing. It's
Thank you.
great listening to
I
you.
think I think the sky's the limit in this space, and so as you are, creating your own journey, I would say definitely think big, think strategic, execute tactically, and see the power of learning more and more from that lens.
Definitely. Now let's talk about ROIs. Because AI has huge potential, but not
Yes.
every business sees it as an immediate return of
Yeah.
investment, right?
Mhm.
So, in your opinion, what differentiates the companies that succeed implementing AI from those that are still struggling with results and success?
That's a great question because every executive conversation I have, it starts and ends with uh, business case, ROI, and what are we going to get out of this? So
Mm.
I would say those conversations are the most important because at the end of the day, these organizations and executives have made massive investments in data and analytics and AI. So the expectation to be able to see business outcomes and benefits pan out sooner than later is legit. It's absolutely needed and it's important for us to address. Now, that makes it complicated because the expectations, especially in the AI world, with everything being, proven, repeatable, elastic, extensible, well, it takes us to two important levers in ROI, which is speed and scale. So, speed and scale is what every executive wants. And that means the speed and scale to business value, speed and scale to business impact, speed and scale to business confidence, right? And that in turn means all of those things for me as a consultant who's working with them. So, very complicated, but very critical to address. So, the way I like to go about doing it is level set expectations. It's very important for them to understand what's real in this market and what's not, right? Because of the hype, right, that we are in, it's very important for them to see in the light of where they are within their organization and their specific nuances, how those impact the achievement of that ROI is also a factor. So it's not just speed and scale of technology and software implementations and bringing to life the production environments of AI, but it's also about the ability to move the organization along together, right? That because organizations are machines and humans, and I think that human factor has to show up and factor in your ROI calculations, your metrics, right? And that is what makes it even more complicated. So I would say in the last 4 years alone, any of the business case work that I've done required a lot of work and rework because it's a constant learning that you're doing, right? And you're learning about their environment, their reality, trying to put it over where the market is at. How do you make it real? So while it's okay to say I want an ROI immediately, is it really possible is the question. And once you're able to show some of the more tangible, tactical, quick wins across that value chain journey by picking up the use cases that are actually quick wins, you can get some confidence and impact going within the organization. But I think if you're really at the CFO level, you're thinking about, wait a minute, when am I really getting my return on this? This is good. Tangible, tactical is good, but I really want to go strategic. Unfortunately, you're not going to see that whole strategic move towards regenerative business transformations, as I call them, as soon as, next year. But I would say the work that started 3 years ago, those organizations can start seeing those benefits by the end of 2026. And I would definitely say, I hope that they started their journey by keeping in mind, what those strategic and tactical business outcomes were, and then aligning those metrics from an ROI standpoint. But I would say speed and scale, top of mind, the most complicated areas to cover. And then, of course, there are a lot of nuances in terms of technology issues. I'm sure you've heard about hallucinations, right? There are companies are still trying to go find the best ways to do CRAG properly. So I would say there are some, technical imperatives that need to be addressed as well as part of ROI. So yeah, I hope I answered that, but that's a complicated one for sure.
No, definitely. And I mean, we have so many other things that I want to cover, and we don't have much time already,
Yes.
but I want to focus now on this part. I mean, AI is built on data, right? But if that data isn't diverse, we risk reinforcing biases in technology. The other day on a different tech social that was about AI as well, we were talking about, for example, how maybe an AI recruiter agent
Mhm.
on a specific company is learning from historical data, right? So how can we ensure that, I mean, because if it runs with that flow, let's say like that, it will have a tendency of hiring men and rejecting women,
Yeah.
because it's built on historical data, right? So are we seeing diverse voices in leadership right now? And how can we ensure that AI is being developed with a more inclusive approach?
I touched upon this. I think it is incumbent upon every stakeholder, every executive that is trying to bring about this AI revolution for their organizations to think about harmonizing AI innovation with corporate responsibility. Okay. And I think it happens at every level of the organization, and it must. And as one of the most important areas, I touched upon AI culture, right? AI culture conversation invariably gets to, the equality conversation, promotion of women conversation, right? All of that is still relevant and critical. The way I try to address it is as part of my strategy engagements. There's a people component. You absolutely must address people, process, and platforms. Those are the three things that every executive, every company needs to address as they move forward to refresh their AI first, strategy and focus, right? So definitely, I would say that's a steady and focused view of the world at every level of an organization. So that's one. Number two is overseeing the work of the folks that are actually doing the programming and the coding, making sure our predefined logic that we're executing does not include any of the bias that we're talking about, right? So I would say at every level, that's important. Now, by the end of this year, the AI economy is going to be 15.7 trillion. So how many women are we really seeing in leadership? Not a whole lot. The number is pretty abysmal. It's 22%, right? And I'm not just talking about leadership. I'm talking about women in AI in general, right? So I think we have, it's a wake up call. We have a long way to go. But having said that, we have in the last 3 years seen a lot of women jump into leadership roles, getting venture, funding, get VC funding going, getting leading startups, finding startups. Right, they're the founding members of startups. So I would definitely say there's progress, but there's a lot more work to do. And I think most organizations that I have spoken with and their executives, for them, this is top of mind. They absolutely must do everything. And I think it's incumbent upon each and every woman. We don't need handouts. We need equality of opportunity so we can run with it. So as long as you're interested in analytics, data, and I would say step in, step up, jump in, and just take charge, right? It's upon each one of us to create our own destiny, right? And but also obviously these organizations are really focused on doing the right thing as well. So I'm very hopeful, as long as we continue to make intentional and deliberate strides in this journey. I think we'll have more and more women voices. I definitely am interested in doing more mentorship programs. So I already do one at U of M. I was speaking with their CEO last night, and I said, "Hey, let's just start with an AI mentorship program and have more women." And I was really excited to see some of the women really excited yesterday. So I would definitely say it's upon each one of us. But yes, the industry in general, I think, needs to do a little better. But we're doing good. We can do better.
Definitely. All right, and maybe this might be my last question, but I mean, we know that AI industry is constantly evolving and leaders have to adapt quickly, right? So how do you keep up with that? And also, what's one lesson that you have learned that has changed the way you approach leadership, innovation, or like problem solving with AI?
I love it. Great questions. So the way I keep up is I follow trailblazers. I call myself a trailblazer in strategy around AI and data. I would say I tend to follow and learn from other leaders in this space, in technology and governance and architecture. So my sources is really learning from the very best in the space. I would say definitely use LinkedIn to your advantage. Find those like-minded individuals, those trailblazers, those executives that are driving this revolution forward. So I tend to follow and learn from the very best in this space. And it's a minute by minute journey. Like the amount of advancement that has been made, you can understand how LinkedIn goes crazy and X, right? So I do follow the AI, X handle and things like that to keep up. And then, of course, following our universities, our schools, because a lot of research is coming out of Stanford. So definitely, I would encourage following organizations like Stanford and MIT in terms of research. So I actually follow some of those assistant professors and professors that are doing that specific research, especially on agentic AI. And then your other question was, sorry, remind me.
No, it's like, what have you learned that has worked for you in terms of the approach that you see with leadership, innovation, or like AI in general?
So I would say, I have always been cognizant of a couple of things from an executive or a stakeholder standpoint, which is uh, what is top of mind for them? Where strategically are their top fears, strengths, weaknesses, areas of excitement, right? And being able to anticipate those and then being able to translate that in terms of more granular, tangible areas, and being able to connect with them on those is what drives the conversation and the clarity that brings to the conversation. Because like I said early on, the whole AI conversation is convoluted, right? It's a complicated, convoluted conversation. And so the ability to simplify it with effective C-suite storytelling, I think, is the most important thing that I bring to the table that I've been able to use throughout the last couple of decades in my journey. So, irrespective of the technology or the specific solution space revolution that we're in IT, I've been able to take these two aspects of my ability to connect with executives and stakeholders from a strategic and a tactical standpoint, being able to anticipate their fears, strengths, weaknesses, and being able to help them understand how to traverse that journey is what I thrive on. And I think that is what is helping me connect with more and more individuals at different levels, and being able to not only help them understand how this is possible, but also be able to think about different aspects of it, from branding to architecture to technology to people, right? There's so many different aspects to this equation, and not just, putting a production solution out there. So I would say that is my superpower a little bit.
Right. And actually storytelling as well. I wanted to ask you, I know we are on time right already,
Yeah.
but like storytelling is like part of your personality, like since you were born, or
Yeah.
is it something that you worked on to develop that skill?
I think I've always been in public speaking and elocution debates, from childhood. So being able to relate with other humans and being able to help them understand your point of view and bringing clarity to a particular conversation has always been a passion for me. So I absolutely believe that the power of persuasion matters, and you cannot persuade anybody unless they can believe you, and they can only believe you if you can speak simple, clear, aspects, things to them. The more jargon you throw, the more complexity you bring to the equation, and they're already complicated conversations to begin with. So
Right. Yeah,
I really do think simplifying those conversations and being able to connect with people at the level they're at is the most important way to do effective storytelling. And so I deal with my family members differently as well, depending on where they are at, what they're expecting. And I like to clear up those conversations, and like to do the same with my clients. So
definitely. And we can tell. So it's a great skill to have.
thank you.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right,
Thank
Neetu,
you.
this has been great. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Yes.
That storytelling skill is amazing. It's a pleasure to listen to you. Um, we are very interested in this mentorship program that you want to
Yes.
create. So let's keep in
Yes.
touch to talk about that. And
Absolutely.
any closing comments for our audience?
I would say rock on and get into AI, jump in, step in, do whatever you need to. This is here to stay. So you can't escape it. So just embrace it and run with it.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Neetu. Thank you
Thank you
everyone
so
for
much.
being here. Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Srini. I saw he was here listening as well.
Lovely.
Yeah, see you next time, and we'll keep in touch for sure, Neetu. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Team Cogent. Really appreciate you all. Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.